I'm going to actually read from the novel I am writing. And this is the first time it's ever been read, so it's a new book and new stuff. The book is called The Dakota Winters, and it's set in the building the Dakota in the year 1980 when John Lennon was assassinated. So, I don't have to say anything else because it's the beginning. Buddy said to tell this like I was telling it to a friend, only make it a new friend who knows some things about us, but not others, and probably the wrong things, and hadn't grown up watching him on television. He said not to start by talking about Betty Bacall or Judy Garland, or John and Yoko, but to mention how much Leonard Bernstein's apartment smelled like cigarettes, and to remember that it all revolved around Roman Rose. He said the important thing was to tell this as though everyone I knew was dead, and to get it right, or get close to right, or at least don't fuck him over the way the other writers did, although it must be said that my father brought a lot of what happened to him on himself. Anyhow, it isn't only about Buddy Winter, it's about all of us, maybe you too, so listen up. To begin with, there was the malaria. I had been in Africa in the Peace Corps. My specific job was to help people with diet and with finding potable water. I helped design and implement a water filtration system and was in the midst of building a community center with a large kitchen and a bare-bones medical treatment facility. I swam with the hippos, danced myself with 30 others into a trance state, read a lot of Ian Fleming novels, and lost almost 20 pounds. I went 5 months without so much as flirting with a girl, and then had a consciousness-expanding weekend in a hotel in Libreville with a 20-year-old daughter of a State Department official. I had a sense I was figuring things out over there, far away from my friends and my parents, but if my trip was a book, I'd been yanked out of it on page 137, while things were still building, and before I knew what all the plot threads added up to. I felt like I was on the verge of a significant breakthrough, or within sight of the verge, but though I was only gone for 13 months, the city looked different when I got back. It was beautiful under the snow and dreamy, though that might have been because I was dreaming. I took walks and pretended I'd come from a small village thousands of miles away and what this all would look like. A lot of my time, though, was occupied with being sick. I once had pneumonia in high school, and I had a few nasty colds, but nothing to prepare me for this. I think I can remember the exact moment when the infection happened. I remember lying under my mosquito netting and realizing there was a mosquito trapped in there, and then being unable to get her out. Only the ladies spread malaria, my doctor said. And fearing if I ripped the netting, all the mosquitoes in the room would attack me. And anyway, I was so tired. I was in and out of sleep. It took a while for me to get sick. And then I had all the classic symptoms: fever, chills, hallucinations. The doctor who treated me in Bungalow Hospital in Mabamba said I could have died. If I'd waited another couple of days, I likely would have. And in truth, I did think about my death in my misty, hallucinatory state. I pictured people at my memorial service, and I imagined them saying incredibly nice things. I was sent back in a Pan Am 707 that stopped for refueling in Paris. I don't remember much about the flight over the Atlantic. There might have been a movie. I drank half a beer. The woman next to me wore nice perfume and was reading Sophie's Choice. My parents met me at the airport, and my father kept hugging me and staring at my face. Malaria, he said. My illness became a story Buddy liked to tell people, that his son contracted malaria in Africa, and he'd list the famous people who had malaria: Dante, Caravaggio, Lord Byron, who had all died from it, and others who just had it, like Hemingway, Lincoln in his Kentucky childhood, and John Kennedy in World War II while in the Solomon Islands. Not much was asked of me in my first days back. I remember watching some of the NFL championship game, the Rams upsetting the Cowboys. Vince Ferragamo threw for 3 touchdowns. And I remember reading about and seeing on television details about the hostages in Iran, and then the Soviets invading Afghanistan. My father was very interested in all of this. Technically, he was unemployed, though he had a number of projects in the works, all of which involved his sinking money into something and planning for the best. The father's kind of based on Dick Cavett, by the way, is a TV show. Please had a nervous breakdown. I was emotional about the things I read in the paper. I was undone for almost 2 days by the news of the death of Joy Adamson, the subject of Born Free. The story said she'd been mauled by a lion in Kenya. She'd been out for a stroll and was due back to listen to a broadcast of the BBC. Her body was found 100 yards from the camp. She was 69 years old. We saw that movie 5 or 6 times, and each new viewing I wept. I'd also developed something of a crush on Virginia McKenna, the actress who played Joy Adamson, and had thought about her in my own days in Africa. I had wanted to meet someone like her, blonde hair and a starched, thin khaki shirt, and fall in love, and stay or take her back to New York with me. Live by the sword, die by the sword, Buddy said, but the news had upset him as well. I don't want to get ahead of myself, Buddy was telling me, but I might be in business again. How so? I might get my show back. We're at the Café Un de Trois in Midtown on a Thursday night. My mother was home reading and helping my brother with his homework. Reginald Buddy Winter, as you know, had a talk show that ran for 12 years and was immensely popular from around 1969 to 1978. The lists of guests on the show included Katharine Hepburn, Muhammad Ali, Gore Vidal, Bobby Kennedy, Elizabeth Taylor, Patty Chayefsky, and John Lennon, the mainstream and the avant-garde. And then he had something close to a nervous breakdown, the details of which were written out in a long and unflattering and only half-accurate portrait of him in Manhattan Magazine. Since then, he'd been hospitalized twice, spent a month at a tennis academy in Florida preparing for an exhibition match, went to India for a month, then to Los Angeles, and then back to New York. In the beginning, it had only run a couple times a week, he said, but if it goes the way they think, well, it'll be like it was. Every night, and we'll compete with Johnny. My father wrote for Carson when he was a young man out of college. He wrote for Milton Berle and Groucho Marx as well. And then it sounds promising. Who's going to produce it? That's the beautiful thing, my boy. It's all new people. When they canceled the Buddy Winter show, it wasn't only my father out on the street. For most of the others, it was easy enough to find a job, but it was a sad and hard time because almost to a one, they planned to stay with Buddy through the end of their careers. To this day, I'm in touch with a lot of them, but a few carried resentments against Buddy and by association me. Our old cameraman, Jay Schwabacker, a gift-bearing uncle to us in the good days, spotted me on the subway once and walked to another car. There was someone standing behind Buddy now and stooping down to speak to us. I don't want to interrupt your dinner, but I watched your show every night until it went off the air. I conceived at least one of my children in front of your show. I'm sorry, Buddy said, but I think that makes me the father. The man, mid-40s with silvering black hair and a vacation suntan, broke out laughing. Well, I'm glad to see you holding up so well, he said. He started to stand up straight again, and Buddy asked him, what do you mean? I mean, you look great. Buddy was smiling, but something had gotten to him. How should I look? He asked. Exactly like you look, I said. The man looked at me as if to say, you take it from here, kid. You're the best, Buddy, the man said, patting my father's sharp shoulder lightly and holding his glance before retreating. Yeah, you too. Buddy sat there for a while staring at his plate as though there was a message for him in the mashed potatoes. You've got to get a little better at things like that, I said in my post-Africa adult voice. You're right, you're absolutely right, he said, and when the waiter returned, my father asked him to send a bottle of wine to his admirer's table. I'll stop there.